Welcome, everybody, to Hot Rod Blues Podcast. This is episode 22. I'm your host, Sean Brereton, with Auto Enthusiast Network.
Mike Abbott, Steel Rose Metal Co.
Sean Young, Kingfish Metalworks, Memphis, Tennessee.
Yeah, and we have special guests today, Mike McCarthy and John McCarthy. Mike is actually a little bit a different kind of guest than we normally have. We normally have car guys on, and Mike is probably as far from a car guy as you. I don't know.
Yeah, I brought a tricycle up here.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, Mike and I go back a little ways. We did a thing at the Summer Drive-In a few years ago, or attempted to.
I don't like to talk about it.
Yeah, it was a monsoon, but he wanted to do a hot rod night there, and I was connected in the hot rod world, so we said, hey, I'll get all the cars together, and then a monsoon came through, so it was pretty bad. But
I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, but we're gonna do it again. It's gonna be right this time, so we'll talk about that a little bit as we go. But
have you looked at the forecast?
No.
Do they project it that far ahead?
No.
Okay.
10 days. So,
But I can tell you this: if Sean comes, it's going to rain.
yeah,
Well,
That's true.
yeah,
There's no rain date.
that's right.
We haven't even talked about that. So
Yeah.
it's all or nothing.
It's all or nothing. Well, we'll just have everybody bring their daily drivers and all that. So
Carcovers.com.
Right.
exactly. Well, let's start at the beginning, Mike. So you're very connected in the movie world and music world and stuff here in Memphis. So tell us a little bit about what you do, and
In other words, kind of fudge the truth a
Yeah,
little bit.
exactly. Yeah. Nobody watches this anyway, so you're all right.
Okay. Well, if I'm connected to the movie world, why did I just work at a warehouse all day? But anyway, maybe we'll have a Q&A about that later.
Right.
John, can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. Be prepared to speak at any minute.
Okay.
My son's sitting over here. Where do you want me to start about the movie thing?
Well, just
or
kind of how
whatever?
did you get involved? What kind of? I know you've done like some. I mean, you've done some feature movies and
Oh
stuff,
yeah.
haven't you?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I
Started at the beginning, I guess.
okay. Well, I guess Well, back in the mid '80s, I was in a punk band called Distemper. We played the Antenna Club, and my world was pretty much comic books. I'd go to Comic Cons, and I'd want to be published as a comic book artist, and music, punk music, which I'd gotten turned on to earlier in the decade. Ramones, Buzzcocks, Sex Pistols,
Yeah.
The Clash, The Damned, Black Flag, The Misfits, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Sweet.
But in '86, I found this book called Incredibly Strange Films that Research Volumes had put out. And they did different volumes on different sort of like counterculture topics. And that book was all about exploitation, sexploitation, blaxploitation films from the 50s and 60s, which led up to the 70s. And I was really intrigued by it because I kind of knew that Russ Meyer made Faster Pussycat, Kill Kill, and I knew about these sort of John Waters. I'd seen Pink Flamingos, at a Comic Con.
Yeah.
But the films that were outlined in that book just kind of blew me away because I'd never. They were like punk rock and comics. They were visuals and they were music and they were all that.
Right.
So skip ahead a few years. I'd drawn some comic books for Fantagraphics Books and Apple and Dark Horse, and then I had an opportunity to produce two. I don't know how much you want me to talk about.
No,
this.
no.
Do it.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is it. I mean, this is Memphis. So yeah.
And a lot of people have heard this. Your audience probably hasn't heard it, but
Yeah.
you do have an audience.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Right.
There's at least 5.
I usually only speak to 5 people at a time.
Well, good. There you go.
So this increases my output to 15,
Yes.
There you go.
including John and Naya over here. But I helped this guy in Illinois. I don't even know how I found out about him, but he was making gore movies out of his garage, but he wanted to make this thing called Gorotica about necrophilia. And when I read about it and knew that he needed actors and talent, I was like, well, we'll do it. Because I knew a bunch of weird people down here who would do just about anything.
Yeah.
And except get paid, of course.
Right.
Right.
So he came down from Centralia, Illinois. This is all, remind me to mention Hugh's Corvette parts later. So Hugh Gallagher is his name, and we made Gorotica in 4 days. I didn't sleep, and we shot this gore film. And then he wanted to know what I wanted in return, and I said, just let me take the door at Barrister's. You guys ever go to Barrister's downtown?
Absolutely.
The antenna was almost fading away, not quite, but Barrister's was like where I showed movies on that stupid TV in the corner.
Yeah.
That 3-light technology.
Yeah.
So hold on, I've got to
What?
cut you off here. So Mike and I, Mike Abbott, we ran in similar circles back in the day, but never knew each other, and it was all through Barristers.
Yeah.
Okay.
So very familiar. My band, we used to play there.
Yeah.
Yes, I am 100% on. And Mike, you might be one of my new favorite humans. let me tell you, I can tell we're going to be friends.
Okay.
So,
That's right.
Well,
that's right.
you're a little sitting a little too close. But, I don't know what kind of show this is, but I'm getting the idea here.
Well, he wasn't
real quick.
He was in the Navy. So
Mike, you don't want to make a gore film, do you?
sure, why not?
That's what I figured. As long as it's not a snuff film.
There you go.
I gave up snuff years ago. I'm straight dipping now. No, but so I had this thing at Barrister's called Cinema au Gratin, where we would show Russ Meyer and John Waters and just crazy exploitation stuff. That Something Weird Video out of Seattle, which I became a big fan of because by the early 90s, they began to release all the films that I'd read about on VHS cassettes, including the work of David F. Friedman, who lived in Anniston, Alabama, and was the king of exploitation films. John, have I ever told you this stuff?
A little bit.
Okay, all right.
maybe.
It's news to him, maybe
Yeah.
some of the, but it's got to come out sometime. So slowly and surely, helping Hugh Gallagher make the gore films led to me stopping drawing comic books because I made like $1,000 in an hour selling tickets to suckers to see Gorotica at Barrister's.
Wow.
And then I helped Hugh make another film called Gore Whore. And then he helped me shoot my first movie, which was Damselvis, Daughter of Helvis. And my movies, I wanted them to have a certain amount of car culture or motorcycle culture in it because I could draw cars. And John grew up on Ratfink and stuff like that.
Nice.
Right.
Big Daddy Roth. But I couldn't work on cars. I could never afford the kind of car that I wanted, lower middle class. I couldn't be that person, but I could draw those things. And I could ask people, could I use their cars, motorcycles, whatever in the movies. So Damselvis, Daughter of Helvis, she became sort of, that was the first movie I did. It cost $2,000 and I made $2,000 back at the door in a couple of hours at Barrister's again. And I was like, well, to heck with drawing comic books, I'm going to start making low budget movies. And naturally that was the worst decision I could have ever made in my life because
Right.
the movies became more and more expensive. And there was no distribution. I wrote an essay called Based on a Model That No Longer Exists about falling in love with Betty Page, who no longer exists, but falling in love with cars, mid-20th century culture, which I was born in 1963. By the time I became a 30-year-old, all that stuff was not accessible unless you had certain connections,
Right.
whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, sure.
Obsessions. So, and I had enough obsessions to keep me busy, and this is before John and his older sister were born. So my wife at the time, Kim, we just made movies, crazy exploitation movies. And so moving from Damselvis, Daughter of Helvis to Teenage Tupelo, which took place in 1962, sort of a semi-autobiosexploitation comedy drama about Elvis being my father because I didn't know who my father really was. And there were vintage cars in that were very period, and we got a whole bunch of reviews. That movie is being released on Blu-ray, hopefully by Christmas, with a whole bunch of extras and things on it.
Cool.
Damselvis is coming out on Blu-ray, I guess maybe November. And there's a coffee table book coming out on Teenage Tupelo, and it's a very retro thing. It's like the whole thing is around 1962, the year of my conception, and just sort of dealing with the fact that I didn't know who my father was, working those things out via credit cards and
Right.
shooting on Super 8 film. And then you want me to keep talking?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And so then in 96, we shot The Sore Losers on 16 millimeter, which was a jump up, $31,000 budget. And it came out on Blu-ray, 3 discs thing. It was a garage rock movie with a whole bunch of garage rockers in it. Guitar Wolf, the Jack Oblivion, the Makers, oh my God, the Royal Pendletons from New Orleans. And that was hot rod juvenile delinquents from outer space that come to Memphis to kill hippies. So,
Take it.
I'm 100% in. Thank you.
I told you were going to like him, Sean.
Dude, you are my guy, dude.
They wanted meat, so they ate the flower children.
Nice.
And then at that point, we were almost on welfare and getting commodities. And so we moved from an apartment. We lived over on North Greer. And I got to say, in Sore Losers, we had a 56 Chevy. And I went to Cordova and bought an AMC Pacer, a DL 76 AMC Pacer for $800 from this lady, because it's not exactly everything I wanted in the movie, but it's what I had. And then I kept that car for like 20 years and sold it for $1,000 a couple years ago.
Made money on it.
Made money on it. Like anybody.
What color was that car? Was it green?
Well, it was, if you looked inside the door, you could see it was banana yellow when it came out originally, but
Right.
it had been painted lime green.
Okay, so that might be Tiffany's car.
You think so?
That
Do you
might
think?
be, well, that car was named, what did you name that car?
I don't
hold
remember.
on. Dirty Harriet.
Yeah.
That was Dirty Harriet.
Dirty
We might
Harriet.
know where that car ended up.
I want to say the owner was named Wendy.
So this was Tiffany who ended
well,
up with
she
it.
bought it from Justin.
Yes. Okay.
I'm
Justin
sure it jumped.
Bierman?
I'm sure
Yeah.
it probably jumped around a lot.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Could've.
from Bierman.
To Cordova, it jumped around.
I don't know. I'm just saying
Yeah.
it probably jumped around after you got it.
Well, when my wife got pregnant with our daughter, I stored a bunch of original art, my comics in the bubble hatchback, and left it at my dad's yard in Northeast Mississippi. And then after the kid was born, I forgot what was inside the car, and it wasn't rain tight, and all my artwork and stuff was really damaged. I didn't take care of it like I should, and anyway, but that was that. And then we made Super Starlight AD at the end of the century, which is about girl gangs at the end of the world who hunt cavemen with machine guns while searching for ancient stag films. And there's a hot rod relic in that film. Do you guys know Ralph Handy?
That sounds familiar.
I don't.
He has like a roadster, lives on not Bel Air, Buena Vista, over by Overton Park.
Okay.
That sounds familiar to me.
But he would never.
I probably know his car.
Yeah, right,
He would never let any of the starlets that played the parts, this one girl in particular, Alicia Trout, he would never let anybody drive the car because he didn't trust anybody. So the best we could do was put a wig on Ralph and have him drive it from a distance, and it had to be quite a distance because Ralph weighed about 350. Ralph,
That's
if you're
awesome.
out there, I love you.
That's awesome.
Dig that. So now we're full circle, and you're doing a car show at the drive-in.
Yeah.
Is that what we're doing?
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Well, here, let me. Hang on.
Against my will. Totally against my will.
Yeah,
but
but-
we thought we'd try it again. Yeah.
So I'll put it up here. So he's doing Cars Under the Stars at the Summer Drive-In, and it's going to be a cruise-in beforehand at 5:30, and then it kind of kicks off at 6, right? So 6:30 he's going to have live music. Going to have who you have playing? Do you know you?
The only people I could really afford was my band.
Yeah.
And this is our first performance, and we don't believe in practicing, so we'll see what happens.
Dig that.
Nice.
But seriously though, the real band that's playing is Uptown Punk, who's Ramones cover band.
Oh, cool.
And
Very cool.
I didn't know they existed. My girlfriend Lisa and I were walking around the neighborhood, Cooper Young, several months ago, and we heard what I thought was somebody playing Pet Sematary really loud, and I'm like, who would be playing Pet Sematary? And I'm like, wait a second. She's like, that's live, and I'm like, who would be playing live? As a
Yeah.
Ramones. So we go down to Nerd Alert, which is down towards Southern and
Oh,
Cooper.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we go down the back driveway, and there's a Ramones cover band playing Pet Cemetery, and they played for like 40 or 50 minutes, and we were just like, wow, this is a good way to end the night.
You're right.
Very cool.
I'd never even been. You've been to Nerd Alert?
I haven't, but I've passed by it multiple times.
You've never been inside? Oh, okay.
I know it's
Yeah,
just like the-
it's all like
vintage.
old
Yeah.
arcade games and
Yeah.
stuff, isn't it? Yeah.
that's pretty much.
Stuff
Yeah.
you're into.
All right.
But anyway, we talked to those guys, and they were available. We're playing again on August 12th at B-Side. The Markdowns is my band in Uptown Punk, and there's another Replacements cover band called Yesterday's Trash.
Oh, cool.
Wow.
And Replacements is my favorite band,
Yeah.
and so we're going to play on August 12th, and that show's called Take Cover, because we hope to take a cover.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like a little something, right?
Take a cover for
Yeah.
the cover bands. But no, this is Saturday, July 30th at Malco Summer Drive-In.
Yep.
Malco's been very great to me and Matt Martin. We've been doing Time Warp Drive-In. I don't know if you guys have been to that.
We have not.
Yes.
Didn't
so
know
that-
about it.
Sean, you been to the Drive-In lately?
So no, we were talking about that earlier.
Yeah.
I went to the drive-in the first time a few weeks ago.
The very first
the very
time.
first time.
Yeah, well, got to go sometime.
Well, and
I
and it's completely my fault. My wife is a huge fan of it, and she was tickled to death that we were going. But yeah, my first shot at it, and I loved it.
Yeah.
Had a great time.
Yeah, we actually got a group of guys together to go see Top Gun.
Yeah, yeah.
Or the
Yeah.
Maverick film or whatever. So
Yeah.
we saw that. But so we're going to be doing Corvette Summer to begin with,
Yeah.
and then American Graffiti. But
Yeah.
but the whole reason that this has come back around, I guess, like I always wanted to get back with you because we had such a horrible time with the rain last time, and we just you know how things are, you just never get back around to doing anything, and
Yeah.
because I really thought it was gonna be great. So this is gonna be great.
It started out great.
I mean, yeah, that was the thing. It's like seriously, that when we did Time Warp Drive-In, it was probably 5 years ago. I think it had just popped up in my Facebook thing.
Yeah.
I think it was 4 or 5 years ago.
it
at
was
least.
in June, I believe.
Yeah, and it was in June, and no, because it was remnants of a hurricane, so it couldn't have been. It had to be later in the season.
Don't tell me it was July.
No, it had to be later in the season. than that,
August?
I
Around
think.
August?
Yeah, August, September, probably.
We
something
showed
like
Two
that.
Lane Blacktop and
Two-lane blacktop, American Graffiti,
Okay.
Bullet,
Oh.
and Faster Pussycat, whatever.
Damn. Well, that really was a dust to dawn.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did a 4 deal. Now, I don't think very many people stayed because it started. It rained so hard that day. It was like 5 o'clock. It looked beautiful out. Everything was going to be great. Oh, it's going to be awesome. And then, man, this thing rolled up in through here, and there was so much rain coming down that in between the
humps.
yeah, the humps,
Yeah.
there were rivers flowing down each one of
Dishes.
them, man. And my Oldsmobile, the rear bumper was sitting in water. It was that high, so it was pretty bad, and it was bad for old.
Maybe that's why we didn't
Old
talk
car
for
people.
5 years.
Exactly. Right. But no, I think this is gonna be a lot of fun. People in the car community have been like, man, you need to do that again. You need to do that again. So I'm glad that you called me about this because
Yeah.
that's really cool. But the whole reason that this happened though was because John bought a Corvette, right?
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Sorry.
Yeah, around, was it May of last year, I was just ready to get my first car, and I saved up some money, and I would go on Facebook Marketplace like every day, and I would just like refresh like all the time. And the first car I found was a 944 Porsche,
Oh, nice.
Take
and
that.
it was the pictures of it looked so beautiful. I drove to Arkansas to meet the dude, and when I got there, the car like didn't even have a hood anymore. And he was like, "Yeah, it sat outside for about a year," and I was like, "No protection, anything?" And he was like, "Nope." And I was like, "When were those pictures taken?" And he was like, "About 2 years ago." And I was like,
Yeah.
Wow.
"Well, good talking to you."
Yeah.
But
Thanks, buddy.
it was a blessing in disguise because I was like, I wanted that. It was a red 944, pop-up headlights, everything. I was like, that would have been such a cool car.
Yeah.
And then one day I saw this red Corvette a 96 C4, and I was like, this is badass.
This is the one.
And I messaged the guy for a while. He was trying to sell it for $4,000. I drove to North Memphis to meet him, and I saw the car for the first time, and I was like, this is really cool. He like started the car and everything. He showed that it ran. I'm pretty sure like one of the first times when because I met with him like twice to look at it, and one of the first times like one of the motors to the headlight just like snapped and the thing just closed, and we were like, but then he was like, hey, but at least it runs, and then he let me like go around the block with it, and I was driving it so slow because it was the first time I'd ever drove a car that was that sensitive.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, and I was maybe doing like 20 miles an hour, and he was like, just give it one, just floor it for just a second.
And it was a neighborhood where kids were running everywhere in the street.
We got to a point where it was just a long
Yeah.
road, and he was like, just floor it, just for a
You
second.
gotta feel it.
And so I did. I floored it, and by
And then
the time we, by the time we-
open your wallet.
yeah, by the time we got back down to 20 miles an hour again, I was like, so how much did you want this for? But he was going to sell it to me for $4,000. We worked it down a little bit. There was, of course, like the outside of it looked awesome, but then, you open the door and there's like just 2 seats and that's about it.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I started a whole process of just, first of all, saving money because I put almost all my money in just getting it.
Right.
Yeah.
But it sat at my mechanic shop for a while that I always, not mine, but
Yeah.
one I always go
Got to
to.
give a plug to Sal's.
Yeah.
Sounds
Yeah,
Summer.
Sal's is good.
Sal's
yeah.
on it, yeah.
Yeah, Sal's a good dude.
And Danny.
It sat there for like 2 months just because they were giving it looks at like just the engine and like everything that was just.
Yeah, just going
In
through what
there.
needed to be
Yeah.
done. Yeah.
And I finally got it back one day, just like it could barely drive, but it was still driving. And I got challenged to like 2 races going home that day.
All right.
There was a white Honda Civic, and the dude was just looking at me and revving his engine, and I was like, I'd love to, but this thing is gonna explode.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It was just
Was that on Parkway?
yeah.
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 Not on Summer, but on Parkway.
Happens to me every single day.
Yeah.
Somebody be pulled up next to you
Yeah.
all the time. But yeah, especially in Memphis, it's getting
Oh, yeah.
worse and worse.
But I mean, that was last year. There'd be months where I would do like a crap ton of stuff to it, and then there would be months where it would just sit there the entire month and not get touched once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just now, like just in this like past month, I finally like it's getting to a point. New carpets, new seats. I'm about to put a new side view mirror in. Everything's coming together, and I finally started just to take it out.
Very
and
cool.
I got it in North Memphis, and one of the first things I wanted to do when it was like at least somewhat finished was take it down Summer, because I have so many past stories of cars on
Yeah,
Summer.
that's right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I just finally was ready one day, and I took it to Summer.
Very cool.
You and just got food and
Right.
cruised the street, and I mean, of course, saw like 10 amazing cars. Saw a GT40 with that race car, blue and orange.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
What's that guy's name? He always goes
I
to.
can't remember. It's isn't it Dobbs or something? He always goes to Elwood Shack.
Yeah, he goes to Elwood Shack
Yeah.
every Saturday morning.
Oh, is
Yeah.
that there?
in,
Still
in a
there?
GT40.
Oh,
yeah.
we should eat there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Elwood's is amazing if you've never been there.
Yeah,
I've been
Especially
there
there's a
years ago.
GT40 parked out front.
he
Yeah.
drives that car a lot.
Yeah,
Good
I mean
for
he's
him,
a cool
man.
guy.
Yeah.
He'll
for
he'll
him.
show you all over that car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he will show you everything about that car.
Super nice guy.
And
The
a crazy-
restaurant needs to have a cool car parked in front of it.
Yes, absolutely.
So, just an aside, you guys ever go to Barksdale's restaurant?
oh yeah,
So, 2 weeks ago, was it a same make and model?
It was a red C6 Corvette.
Slammed into the
saw that.
corner
Yeah.
of
Might
the
have been a
restaurant,
C5.
and I was going to put up a Cars Under the Stars poster right where to promote the Corvette Summer Show, right where the Corvette rammed into the edge of Barksdale Restaurant.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
Well, you might not want
Yeah,
to
I
do
proposed
that
to
now.
my wife in Barksdale Restaurant.
There you go.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah,
That's funny.
for sure.
I think I proposed to your wife in Barksdale.
Yeah, yeah. She turned him down. She took the better choice.
There you go.
He probably wanted to make a snuff film.
Yeah, that's what it was. That's what it was. Well, he has 401k and, you know,
Yeah,
all
right.
that. That's not her bag.
Right.
Just want the struggle.
That's right.
God, that's
That's
funny.
right. You know, the crazy thing about the whole wanting to cruise your car down summer. So you're how old? 17?
I'm 17, yeah.
17 years old. So that's been going on since the 50s.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many people that we've interviewed that's like, man, when I was a teenager, I just wanted to cruise summer. And, like, it'd be an 84-year-old man talking about cruising summer when he
Yeah.
was a teenager. That always blows me away, the history that Summer Avenue has with cars, like, for decades. You know? It's pretty epic.
Yeah, if you're into the history at all, like we've done a few episodes with some of the Memphis Rodders, and those guys, you know, they were the club back in the 50s that really started racing Lakeland Dragway and all that with two-lane blacktop. But they, you know, those guys, they were cruising summer back then.
Yeah.
And it was like, gosh, crazy. I think that Summer Avenue has been the thing. Like
For that long.
Yeah, yeah.
So Kenny Bomar, I was going to quote him. He often thought when he was, growing up and driving cars for the first time that he knew he would make it if one day he could afford a Corvette. And I'm going to quote him: "I would want to swap cogs in a Corvette rolling down Summer Avenue."
Right, right.
Yeah. So yeah, absolutely.
And
Yeah.
the whole two-lane blacktop thing, Kenny Bomar's car is in that movie.
Absolutely.
Is it?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Well, my Uncle Dan said in his own little ways, like, the two proudest moments of my life was when I got my Corvette and when I sold my Corvette.
No doubt.
Because it's an interesting car to have, like you're in a jumbo jet low on the ground.
Yeah.
And
And a C4 has got a really big sill that you have to step over to get in,
Yeah.
and you almost fall into the car. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tub.
You have to be a young dude to get in.
Just, like ass first and then
Yeah,
put your legs.
right.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's exactly
yeah.
right.
It's not a graceful thing by any means. Yeah. So we were talking about the origin of why we're doing cars and stars is John's Corvette. So, you know, like. So you weren't into cars. I mean, you liked cars, but you weren't really into cars. So how did he get into cars?
I guess that's a question for him.
Yeah, right?
Well, kind of started around when me and all my friends got our driver's license and like learner's permits around the same time, and we all just kind of like slowly started getting into cars. And I mean, we'd all had like hot rods when we were younger, and like by that I mean like figures or
Yeah,
like
Right.
Matchbox cars
Yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff
yeah.
like that. Yeah.
and we all had our like insane dream cars too.
What were those?
For me, it was a 96 RX-7 FD, Lamborghini Countach, like 80s,
Right.
Yes.
and Ferrari F40.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
But-
Lamborghini Countach is a car that it transcends age groups. Like I think
Yeah.
I mean, of
Right.
course, I was a kid when that thing came out, and it was it was on everybody's wall.
That
back
thing
then.
came out that early?
in 1864.
Wow,
Like,
that's
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah,
That's
no.
crazy.
If you think a Corvette's hard to get into,
Right.
Right.
It's like
Yeah.
so
I know it is one of like the most impractical cars ever.
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty sure the windshield wiper only does the passenger side.
Yeah.
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 one,
I was
one-
never a Lamborghini guy.
Yeah.
Really?
Well, one thing I've learned through him, and because he shows me all these YouTube videos where these guys review the cars, which is like their excuse to drive the car around.
Yeah.
Right.
And I always assumed that it was beautiful inside and very spacious for what it could be, and it's like
Super cramped.
it's like it's not even
It's made for a little Italian dude, is what it's made for.
Right.
Any supercar.
Yeah.
yeah. So I
Yeah,
was like,
they're not made for comfort. They're made to go fast.
Yeah.
And it's just like with the drive-in, we have different prices for different
Yeah.
classic cars. But with the Corvette, normally the drive-in is $25 a carload because you assume you're going to bring your family with a van full of kids or whatever.
Right.
But then when you show up in a Corvette, well, that's two people,
Right.
and that's really all it can be.
Yeah.
And so we worked it out with Malco. You had best ideas about the prices.
Yeah.
To squeeze people. How many people can you squeeze into a car, and what's fair and what's not fair?
Yeah, right.
Anyway.
Yeah, but no. So it's gonna be it'll be $10 for a Corvette, and $15 if you bring a classic car. So try to incentivize people to bring a classic car. We're gonna have a special spot for classic cars to park. We'll try and keep them all together.
Can we put people in the trunk of the car?
If you want to.
Dig
Put
it.
a punk in your trunk.
Yeah.
That's what we used to do when
There
I was
you
a
go.
kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I got a question for you, though.
Yeah.
Are you going to be at the admission stand? Like Phyllis is the lady there that usually takes the money. How's she going to know what's a classic car, and how do you define that? Yeah.
Yeah.
good question.
Where do you draw the line, Mister? I don't like lines.
I know, right? Like I don't know.
Is it pre-72?
Yeah, 19 or Well, the way that good guys and NSRA and all that,
We're
the way
not
that they
good
do
guys.
it now is 30 years or older, right?
For an antique car.
Yeah.
So we can
For-
put a Honda
but-
Accord in there.
But really, like it's collector car, and collector car people know who.
I know, but
Collector
what if somebody
cars.
shows up and
Yeah.
they're going to say they think they're going to save $10, but they're really in some 1993
in a Honda.
4 or 5 whatever.
All right, I'll find somebody to be the muscle at the
muscle
gate.
car show.
Yeah, right. So hey, if it was him, then every car would have to be like 1930,
Yeah, that's right.
whatever, right? You'd be like,
Chopped.
nope, not
Yeah.
classic,
No,
not classic.
that's not a classic.
1950. Get out of here.
How can you watch the screen in a chop top anyway?
You sat on top of the car.
It's like, is it every customizer's goal to make it as uncomfortable as
Yes,
possible inside
absolutely.
the car? Okay, well then you should.
It's not even about making it uncomfortable. What it's about is completely defiling what some big corporation put out. So they put out this car. Well, we think what you put out sucks, so we're going to change it. That's what it's about.
That's everything that Mike does.
That's exactly right.
Well, a lot of cars back in the day were made for people who wore hats. It was a big thing to wear hats, and that's why they were so damn tall.
Never thought about that.
For a top hat?
For a top, yeah. Well, big hats. So like my Mercury, even with it chopped, it doesn't really change the sight line in it.
Yeah.
It's still fairly normal when you set
You're
it.
You
still
wear a-
sitting on the floor.
You wear a hat when you're driving?
I do, yeah,
I would.
absolutely.
I would wear a
Well,
top hat.
look at that hair, man.
Yeah.
Why you don't want to mess that hair up?
Yeah.
This is really all I have going for me.
Yeah.
So this is it, guys.
That is salon quality hair right
Wait,
there.
you got cool tats too, right?
Yeah.
You got good tattoos.
It's funny you talk about roof height. So the first car I ever owned was a Volkswagen Beetle, and the whole reason why I bought a Volkswagen Beetle is because the rounded top, I could fit a 2-foot tall Mohawk in the Volkswagen Beetle. That's the whole reason why I bought it. It's like my Mohawk fits in here perfectly.
Did you ever think about a convertible?
No, that was never even a thought.
Well,
That's hilarious.
We think about everything backwards when it comes to fixing a Corvette because, like, the weather stripping is the last thing we're going to get to now that we put the upholstery in.
Right.
So if anyone has any recommendations for weather stripping that's not on Union Avenue, maybe.
Right.
Mom and pop weather stripping, is that such a thing?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Not local.
No.
Probably.
And-
You'll have to go. You'll have to go online for that stuff.
Steel Rose
Yeah.
doesn't do weather stripping.
No,
Yeah.
no, we're all metal.
Right. You want to make it as uncomfortable as possible.
That's right. That's right. And that's hard to do with a Corvette.
Yeah. No doubt. That's hilarious.
What about like gutters?
Yes. Yeah. We can do that. We can do rain
He
gutters.
usually shaves his rain gutters off.
That's right.
So yeah.
The
So
Corvette
those
is
are
pretty
gone, too.
spacious for
Is it?
Yeah, for a sports car. Because
You got the area in the back.
Yeah.
I don't even mean like that. I just mean to like fit.
Yeah.
my
Yeah, the fit.
6'3".
Yeah,
So-
it was the Corvette was definitely designed for Americans.
Yeah.
I mean, even the new one.
The newer
yeah.
one's like a C8 or
Yeah,
huge.
yeah, C8. They made sure that that
Americans can fit.
yeah, as Americans have gotten larger, that they could fit in that thing. And one of the things they made sure too was that golf clubs would fit in the front, in the frunk.
Are
and
you
all
for
that
real?
Stuff. Yeah, oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's the gayest thing I
Absolutely.
ever heard.
So
Oh, yeah.
when John gives up the car, I can be the middle-aged white guy that's going down the street
In the
a car,
Corvette.
and then it's a twofer. It's
Yeah.
like
John, don't give up
Got
the
it.
car. Just put a blower motor in that thing, like sticking out of the hood.
There you go. There
That'd
you
be
go.
cool.
Might
Yeah.
have to come.
Saw
Might have
the
to
hood
come here.
open.
Yes.
Might have
Say
to come
what?
here to do that.
What engine is in that? LT1?
Yeah, it's a
Line.
LT1.
LT1?
V8. Yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta say, John goes to school at East and vocational programs, and there's
Hey.
auto class there.
Wow.
Yeah, in the
They actually have an auto class.
diesel
That's
mechanics
awesome. How
and
about that?
aviation.
and they've got two big rigs that they have like a shed for, and the kids can like you can go in there and you have to put like a full body suit on, and they just like take apart the pieces.
Very
Really?
cool.
Yeah.
Dig that.
Are you in class?
I'm
do you
not
take
in
it?
that class.
No. Are you gonna take auto? shop?
Yeah, I was gonna take it.
Man, I'll tell you what. One of my biggest regrets in high school was not taking auto shop.
Yeah.
I mean, I know how to work on cars, but not that great. And
For real.
I'm not doing what. Yeah, I'm
That's
not doing
true.
what he's doing. And but all my buddies took auto shop and stuff,
Yeah.
and that's that's one of those things. Definitely like
I wish
Yeah.
I'd have done that too.
what-
They had one. I went to Coldwater High School.
Yeah.
They did have it, and I never took it.
Yeah, that was a big agricultural school right there.
Yeah, I
Like,
was in FFA.
Yeah.
I was Future Farmers of America. My dad was an ag teacher.
Yeah.
The whole thing. So yeah.
Well,
he
I'll tell
just
you-
used what he learned to grow pot.
yeah.
That's it.
One of the reasons I didn't do that was because his grandfather, my dad, was a welder at a factory for 25 years, and I saw the way he would come home with speckles all over his arms and
That's
his
me.
glasses full of metal.
Yeah.
And I just was like,
Yeah.
I
I
can't
don't,
do that.
I don't know what's the residual effect of all. I mean, he lived to be 89,
Right.
Yeah.
but
High
that was
iron.
that was what that's what welding meant to me. And I did a
Yeah.
little bit of welding at FedEx, working on a construction crew, and even that kind of taught me to a whole new respect for my dad,
Right.
because.
It's a hard way to earn a living.
Well, and one of the best welds I ever made, I forgot to put my helmet on.
Oh, yeah.
And I was bragging about it. I'm like, it's like I saw it so beautifully. And the guy goes, "Where's your helmet?" And I'm like, oh, yeah, I didn't put. He goes, "You're going to be in pain tonight." And then he
Yeah.
scared the hell out of me. Like my eyes are going to be
Yeah.
frosted or something. So he told me to go home and put raw potatoes
Yeah, that works.
on my eyes. And so I spent the whole next day with potatoes on my eyes, and nothing ever happened. And then I went back to work, and I was like, you were screwing with me, weren't you? That's potatoes. You just wanted me to have potatoes on my eyes all day.
No, that's a real
That's the
thing.
way it works.
That is a
That's a real thing.
That's a very
But
real
my
thing.
dad never put potatoes on his eyes.
Right.
Because he knew better.
Well, I guess
he
so.
knew what to do. But
Well-
I came over here one time and we were so we do shop nights over here, like which is something you ought to look into, John. We do shop nights over here. We're kind of on pause right now while it's so hot, but
Like a workshop?
Yeah. So like on Saturdays, come in, learn. You can learn how to use English wheel or the hammer, or you learn how to weld and all that kind of stuff. And of course, I've hardly welded anything. I can burn two pieces of metal together, but it's not going to be pretty.
Right.
And he was doing some aluminum welding with TIG over here one day, and so he's like, "Oh, here you go," showed me how to do it or whatever. So he's like, "Oh yeah, just run that thing." So I'm just sitting over there. I mean, I had the helmet on and stuff, but I was sleeveless like this, and so I ran that whole thing. And I got home later on, and I was like, "Man, what's my arms are burning?" I looked down, my arms are like beet red. They're just completely cooked, and
Radiation.
like, yeah, it hurt, man. It hurt so
The
bad.
worst sunburn you'll ever have.
Yeah.
And then he called me crying, and I'm like,
I'm like,
dude,
why didn't you tell me,
like,
dude? Like,
I don't think about that. My skin's like leather. I've been welding for forever. I don't put sleeves on.
Those aren't
like-
tattoos. Those are.
That's right. That's skin cancer. What are you talking about?
They're just burned into them. But yeah,
That's cool. Do you ever do podcasts when you're doing workshops?
no, we haven't done that.
That's
No.
too dangerous.
Yeah, right.
We've done a couple of videos, and we'll do like little snippets, but never a whole podcast.
Yeah.
So have you ever done reality TV?
Nah, I actually, I absolutely am detested by the idea of being on TV.
Well, you got a good mug.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know?
I look like a caveman, but no,
Superman chin.
Yeah,
Well,
they try to, they've attempted to talk me into it a number of times, and then nothing about being on TV
Well,
interests me.
It's
in any
not your
shape, form,
it's
or
not your
fashion.
job though. You just do your thing, and then somebody's there.
Yeah, but
well,
now
the problem
they make
is
you,
they change
Yeah.
it.
They want,
They change it. So, like, I had a production company pursue me about doing such
Oh,
a thing.
yeah?
And I told them, I said, look, as long as it's real and it's actually what's happening, like, I'm totally cool with
Well,
that.
that's never going to happen.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, yeah. And then they come in and they film all kinds of stuff. And then next thing you know, they chop it up and they send me the pilot. And, like, I'm talking, like, words were changed, like, everything to look like something else. And I was like, no, I'm over this. I'm
They have
good
to
on
make it
that.
dramatic.
Yeah, you can keep all that. So,
Yeah.
plus, I don't like the idea of going in a grocery store and people like, you're like, oh, you're the guy. Like, I don't want to do none of that. I just like
Well-
building cars.
And you're busy enough.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm excessively busy.
Yeah.
So, you said that John was into Ed Roth. What got you into Ed Roth?
Well, just I don't know, all the things that like we would just
Surrounded by images.
yeah.
Well, I was
pretty
gonna say, I
much.
mean, you were into comics and stuff, right? So it
There's
kind of comes over.
different decades. There would be different kinds of Big Daddy Roth. I got three books on Roth. I'm sure I showed them to you or read some of it to you, or
Yeah.
Pinstriping, Von Dutch,
Yeah.
or Stanley Mouse, or Robert Williams, or any of those. I mean, you grew up around all. I met Robert Williams. I never met any of those other guys. But I think you always go up in the attic. I had my man cave up in the attic, loserdom, and John spent a lot of time up there, being somewhat afraid when he was little, because there's so much visceral stuff going on. And I was afraid that he'd fall down the stairs, and there's a lot of Big Daddy Roth here or there.
There was always you had that Hot Wheels racetrack that was like the whole oval,
Yeah,
Dig that.
and it had like it was old too, and it
Yeah.
had like a little thing where you could flick
I'm
it, and the
old.
car would like shoot across the whole thing. And I used to
Yeah.
play with that.
I was an only kid, so I saved a lot of my toys. So I still had my Vertibird and my Gnip Gnop and my Slamback, and then I had the 71 or so Sizzlers track with the juice machine that would actually juice up the battery powered. I don't know how they do that.
I don't know.
So I still got it up in the attic, the
Dig that.
orange track.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, where else do you put something like that?
That's
It's probably
right.
worth a lot of money now too.
I don't know how complete it is, and there's been other little hot rods added. I kept my cars for the longest time.
Yeah.
I get lots of things that I figured I would keep. You know, you got a little boy coming up, and the kid's eventually going to want to tear into everything that you
Right.
thought you could preserve in a vintage or kind of
Yeah.
way. So you kind of got into pretty much everything,
Yeah.
which is
Well, I mean,
okay.
I don't know. That was just how it was. I would just always, and I remember you had Hot Wheels, AMC, like an AMC Pacer,
Yeah,
and I would
a little one and a
Yeah.
big one.
and I would play with that. And I remember when you did first get the Pacer, that was like my first experience with just seeing a car. I don't know, that was like your version of a project.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. I just remember it was always so cool to me because I'd never seen a car like that before.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I thought that car was cool. I was sad when we sold it.
Well, you get something and you want to work on it, and it's a way to bond and all that, and then you realize it's not about bonding; it's about bondo.
Right. Yeah. For sure.
It's like
And-
this is too much. We can't do this.
Yeah.
And
Well,
sorry,
turned,
John.
It turned into like it went from that, and then I just after that car went away, I just didn't think about cars again for a while. But then once
You
me
were-
and all my
yeah.
friends got our license, and like we all started getting our first cars, and we would like work on them together. Like I had a friend who had a I want to say 86 Z31.
Yeah.
And a friend, I don't know what type, but he has a really nice Volvo. And I had another friend with a 2002 Subaru WRX.
All right, there you go.
Yeah. And there was a lot of cool different cars, and that was all like last summer. We would just meet up and like work on them together, and it would always go great. But then one thing would pop or blow or something, and we'd just be like, all right, nope, never mind. This
And then
thing's
when
gonna
you're
blow up.
when you're 17, you're like, okay, let's go do something else.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, we'd just be sitting there and we have a cold air intake in one hand and a turbocharger in another hand, and we'd just be like, how are we going to make space?
Right.
Yeah.
And we would just sit there all night.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how you
YouTube.
figure it out.
Yeah.
I gotta
YouTube.
I gotta say, like when John was really little, I'd heard someone on an interview talking about how they became curious about taking things apart or putting things together. And with me, I had like glow-in-the-dark monster kits when I was a kid, but those are always sort of prepackaged. But I went through this period with you, and I don't even know if you remember it or not, where any container that we used for food or any cardboard box, I gave it to John to disassemble and to tear apart before you put it in the recycle bin. And sometimes it was kind of complex. I mean, you were like 3, 4, 5 years old. So you would have to take it all apart and flatten it to put it in the thing. And I don't know for what that's worth.
Yeah.
And then that led to Lego fixation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So
I was a big Lego kid.
I got you a knockoff Lego car, and you didn't even like it. You didn't even want to put it together.
I was like, it's knockoff.
Like what? Yeah, no, that's how I was too. I was like, it has to be the original.
Still like
It has to be the
$160
real
knockoff.
thing, right? Yeah.
Legos are high.
Man.
I just went to a Lego store so they have Lego stores in New York.
Oh yeah.
And man, I was just like, are you kidding me? I mean, Lego sets are thousands of dollars.
Yeah, like
Thousands
what?
of dollars.
Yeah.
I'm like, no.
But don't you want like a
crazy
14-foot
though.
Darth Vader head?
Yeah.
No, no, I don't.
don't either.
Not for $10,000. No, I'll buy another car.
My brother-in-law is very into Lego still. He does like that's his like chill time, relax time and stuff.
Yeah.
And he does Legos, and he's got billions of them.
You guys go in the hobby
yeah.
shop?
yeah,
some?
Absolutely. Yeah, I used to race slot cars over there.
I got 4 slot cars in the
Last couple
office
years,
in there.
yeah,
That's
all the
right.
time. I gotta get back over.
Their model car collection's amazing.
Epic. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, they got tons.
I mean, everything. That's where I'd like to get a job, actually.
Yeah, you know, surprisingly, I never got into model cars. Like,
Really?
I really didn't. Like, maybe it's because I sucked at it.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like, I just never. I don't know. I never got into it, like having to put it together and all that kind of stuff. Now I had tons of Hot Wheels and Matchbox cars and stuff, and I was the kind of kid that I never rammed them together. Never put. I'm sure everything
Of course
that you
you
did.
were.
Yeah, Like I kept them.
I wouldn't do that.
I kept them all clean,
Yeah.
and like I never rammed them together. And
I chopped mine up.
Yeah, I never put firecrackers in them and
Chopped
all that
them
kind
up,
of stuff like people
repainted
did.
them.
Yeah,
Well,
Change parts.
never did it.
John and I had a deal. He's wanting Ninjagos and all kinds of Legos, and I'm like, look, and this is like a deal you make with a 7 or 8 year old. You're like, if you put that together and never touch it, and we put it up on the mantle, I'll build you shelves all throughout the room. And so then, like 5 years later, there wasn't room for another thing to go in his room. It was like a total museum, and now it's all. I suggest having a barn out back.
Yeah.
He's like, put yourself through college with the Lego collection.
I will say I did actually go to Target and buy a Lego just yesterday.
Did you?
Yeah.
Dig that.
What'd you get?
I got this little $20 set, and it was a Lamborghini Countach.
Well, there you go.
That might be the
Yeah.
only way you get one.
Yeah.
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 Oh, those things have gone through the roof now.
It's like
Crazy
over $1
expensive.
million.
Yeah.
So you weren't into cars. So when I was a kid from like the early 70s, late 60s, early 70s throughout, it was all about custom, like Tom Daniels or the name escape. The little coffin with a 32, I think, with a skeleton leaning up against it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And it's been reissued.
Yeah.
And I had things like that just, how can you not want that? A skeleton leaning against a hearse,
Yeah,
hot
that's
rod
right.
hearse.
Yeah.
And those are the things that they beautifully tied together, like, monster movie obsession.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
With that Rommel's rod. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like a
And all
desert
the-
Nazi field
Yeah, like
tank.
all the
Yeah.
Daryl Starbird kind of cars and stuff
Yeah,
like that
yeah.
too.
And you could
They
get
were
like
wacky.
I had a banana boat roadster that had a trailer on the back with a mini bike.
Yeah.
That was like all banana oriented. It was like banana seats and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know what happened to that.
See, that shows you how straight laced I am though. Is like I didn't like any of those kind of weird cars that were like the coffin car
Oh,
and
my
stuff like
God.
that. Like when I was a kid, like I wanted a car to look like a car.
See,
Like, I didn't
stock.
like I didn't like stuff like like Daryl Starbird did and Barris's some of the weird creations and stuff like that
Yeah.
never really turned me on. That stuff like the Monkeys cars, like I'm like
The TV
Yeah.
show The Munsters is really.
Yeah.
I really believe that the Munsters is probably what started
Yeah.
my infatuation with cars. Like
be,
I
yeah.
wanted to be part of the Munsters so bad, and all their cars were so sick and like
Yeah. And,
Yeah,
and
right.
the Dragula.
the Dragula. The
Well, Rob
Munsters
Zombie
coach.
owns all those, I think.
I think
now.
you might be right.
Maybe.
But yeah, I wanted that so bad.
And I even had a Beverly Hillbillies, and that's where you had to decide stock or custom, because if you customized it, it came out some weird George Barris hot rod Beverly Hillbillies truck.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, they would have never shown up in that.
Yeah.
In Beverly Hills, but no, those are great memories.
That's
great stuff.
funny.
In fact, the lettering for the cars under the Stars poster is taken from a George Barris Scholastic paperback from the 70s, where
nice.
Scholastic put out a book on Steve McQueen and Donny Osmond and the DeFranco family. Like, what are these people driving? And Elvis even had a George Barris, I think an RV or something.
Yeah.
So-
I don't remember what it was that he had from Barris, but yeah, he had something.
They all had
Yeah,
something from
yeah,
George Barris.
right?
Yeah.
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 That's crazy. But you're a big Elvis fan. Speaking of Elvis,
I cried like a baby at the new movie that
Oh,
came
it's
out.
so good.
I dragged them to it even.
I have not seen it.
What'd you
I
guys
saw
think
it
of
this
it?
weekend. It's great.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
awesome.
It was a good story.
Yeah, I dug it. I was pretty stoked about it.
You
And
liked
I'm
it?
not an Elvis fan.
Yeah.
But I like the movie.
Well, Elvis, I'm from Tupelo originally, and all my movies have something to do with Elvis or Jesse, his stillborn twin brother.
Yeah.
And very esoteric and cryptic and almost religious in a way. And I could not believe what Baz Luhrmann, the Captain Marvel, John's named after Captain Marvel Jr., Elvis's favorite superhero.
Right.
And all this Captain Marvel Jr. stuff was on screen, and I was like, oh my God, this. And he's handling it like, okay, here's a point, here's like he just keeps moving, and you either know it or you don't know it. And if you
Right.
don't know it, it doesn't destroy your enjoyment of the movie. But
Yeah.
I was sitting there going, holy crap, what, you know. And I guess, spoiler alert, he even puts the Baptist Memorial Hospital at home plate at Russwood Park for just like 3 seconds. And if you know where to look, you know. Well,
It's
that's where
there,
Elvis
yeah.
played when he came back from New York. Oh, and there's where he was pronounced dead on first base. It's like, what's going on? It's
Yeah.
almost like hallucinogenic.
Yeah.
That's
and
very cool.
I drove these guys down Union Avenue where Russwood was, where Baptist Memorial was, where Sun still is. And it's all within like 3 blocks.
Yeah.
Like a man's entire trajectory kind of captured in 3 blocks.
Yeah.
So
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Did they film any of that here, or was it all?
I heard not a thing about
I
it.
don't.
Yeah.
I don't think
I
so.
doubt it.
Not that I know of.
I've never seen I worked at Sun Studio for 4 years, and I've never seen where they actually came in and did anything like the Elvis TV show.
Right.
Yeah.
They might have shot an exterior. There was another Elvis TV show back in the 80s or something
Yeah.
that maybe was more true to form. But yeah, the Sun Studio, I'm looking at Sun Studio going, okay, that's not it.
Right.
They always want to make it bigger.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah.
really more like an inside of a Corvette.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot smaller than you think.
Yeah, it is.
You know what? I'm going to say this, and everybody's going to be like, "What?" I've never been to Sun Studios.
Really?
I've been in the front of it, but I've never been on the tour. Never. Yeah.
Well,
never
yeah.
have. I don't know why. I just
Yeah.
A lot of
haven't.
locals have it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Right. Oh, I mean, I've only been to Graceland once.
Yeah.
I've never been to Stax, and I'm a
I
little
went to Stax.
disappointed.
Stax
I've been
is
there.
awesome.
Yeah,
Is
I've
it?
been to
Cool.
Stax.
Yeah.
Stax
I'm a
is
little
cool.
disappointed
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
We spent $20 million rebuilding Stax just as it was, according to the blueprint,
Yeah.
as far as rebuilding it. John, you were at the groundbreaking for that.
Yeah.
Naya, were you there? The Stax? Your dad was, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was everything we torn down, but at least that came back.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very cool.
Yeah, I need to go to Stax Museum.
I haven't been in years.
I was a big Otis Redding fan.
Yeah.
My dad he force-fed Otis Redding to me. So, I
love
was
Sam
all about
Cooke.
Stax, man. Yeah.
I like Sam Cooke. That's really cool. Now, yeah, we need to do that. We need to do a hot rod tour of all the.
There's a lot
all
of
the
stuff
cool
here.
places, you know?
There's a
Yeah.
lot of stuff
Isn't
here.
that
Yeah.
Hot Rod Association right next the muffler shop right next to Sun, or it used to be?
Oh no, that was
Oh, Walker
that was
Radiators.
Walker Radiators. They sold out.
Yep. Yeah,
Okay.
Gone.
they just closed.
Yeah.
and-
But
yeah.
isn't that where the Hot Rod Association used to be?
No, that's
No.
over on
Well,
Perkins.
No, you're right. You're kind of right.
I'm thinking decades
No,
ago.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're kind of right. So Vernon Walker started NSRA, so it's the National Street Rod Association.
Yeah.
So he started it there. I don't know if they ever had an actual office there, but they had one over on Park, and I think at one point it was over on. It is still headquartered here. I don't know exactly where it is right
I
now.
think it's on
Yeah.
Perkins.
Is it on Perkins?
I think it's on Perkins. Or
Oh.
like old Perkins. Or
Well, the
something.
Elvis
Or
TV
whatever,
show
but yeah.
from like the late '80s put that Walker radiator sign up, and
Right.
they liked it so much they were like,
Right.
"No, don't move it, leave it there."
That
Yeah.
sign was worth
So-
a lot of money. It's
Yeah.
over at Mr. Walker's
Yeah.
place. Mr. Walker lives over in he lives in West Memphis.
You should
But
go to you should go to Sun definitely
Yeah.
because again, it's another. It's like not very big.
Yeah.
We when John was a little kid and he and his sister. Well, I tell the story. So me and a bunch of other people, tight knit group, we were Sun Studio tour guides, and we would talk about the Hotel Chisca, which was like 7 blocks away.
Right.
And we always thought, well, it's like everything else, it's going to be gone, it's going to be torn down. And then as time passed, and I didn't work at Sun anymore, but I still had my ear to the ground, and I was at this event one night, and this lady who worked for downtown tourism, she called me over and she goes, they're saving the Chisca. And I'm like, you're kidding me. And she's like, no, they're going to. And I'm like, does that mean they're saving WHBQ on the mezzanine level where Dewey Phillips was?
Right.
Because that's another thing they've never accurately presented is
That's
Dewey's. Dewey comes off as a cartoon, a Southern cartoon, and in a lot of these Hollywood fabrications of what reality used to be here in the 50s. And maybe they touch on his, various crazy aspects of him, whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, there's Dewey now.
So tell us about the Hotel Chisca. We were just talking. I was not familiar WHBQ was actually in that building.
Yeah, we have better quartets. That was WHBQ. George Klein.
Is that really what it stood for?
Yeah, well, one of the things, yeah. George Klein, Dave Brown, I think, I want to say. Dewey Phillips, of course. And Dewey Phillips was this furniture salesman that worked on South Main, and he would set a record player out in the late 40s or early 50s, and he would use blues records to sell furniture. And eventually, WHBQ, somebody walked by and said, hey, you should get a radio show. And so then Dewey had the show and played country music, blues, everything. So white kids listened to black music, black kids listened to white music, and out of that assimilated listening experience came Elvis Presley, who threw in a little Dean Martin and Mahalia Jackson and created the hybrid of what happened at Sun for Sam. But as a tour guide at Sun, we all talked about the Chisca in sort of past tense, like it was never going to survive the regentrification of downtown and the blight that.
Because it was, that thing was boarded up forever.
Yeah, and the Church of God in Christ bought it for literally a dime from the Snowden family who owned the building, and then it was overwhelming. They couldn't do anything with it.
Right.
And then the developers couldn't borrow money to preserve WHBQ or the mezzanine level. The bank would not loan, this is the story I heard, would not loan them money on retail. They would only loan them money on a condo or hotel, whatever it is,
Right.
living space.
Yeah.
So that was their excuse for knocking down the mezzanine where Dewey had first played Elvis on the radio.
Oh, so they did. So they didn't preserve it.
They didn't, and legally maybe couldn't, or that's what I was told. But I was given a key to the Chisca, and we were allowed to go in, and that's when John and his sister would go in. And he's seen a lot of things that aren't there anymore.
Right.
Very cool.
But we went in, and we were given the task of take whatever you want out of WHBQ.
Wow.
So the mirrors, the double-sided mirrors, weigh hundreds of pounds for the ancient way of capturing sound, and we took control room control room C out, and that's the room that's at Sun Studio now upstairs, which is Dewey's room, which he would generally destroy in an alcohol-laced fit when he was playing records and getting excited. And So when Elvis showed up that night when he was 19 to be interviewed for the very first time, he couldn't go in Dewey's control room C because it was a mess. So Dewey had him go down to control room A, and that's Elvis was super nervous and didn't want to be interviewed and had just been pulled out of the Suzor No. 2 movie theater on Jackson and brought to the Chiska and made more nervous by the fact that in 1954, in July 5th, there was no air conditioning in cars, and so he heard his That's All Right recording, which was just on an acetate at the time, coming out of all these different car windows. Black kids, white kids, everybody was listening to Dewey Phillips, Red Hot and Blue.
Yeah.
So by the time he got to see Dewey for the first time ever, this man that had, played him 14 times so far that night, he was a wreck. And Dewey said, come to control room A, I'll give you the questions and then we'll figure it out. And then when you're ready, we'll interview you. And so he asked Elvis, where he went to school. And Elvis said Humes, which was coded. You didn't have to say I'm black or white, which is what everybody wanted to know that was calling in that night.
Wanted to know whether he was black or white.
If you said Humes, you were white because it was a white school.
Right.
So at the end of it all, Elvis said, all right, Mr. Phillips, I'm ready to be interviewed. And Dewey said, man, I already interviewed you. I had the microphone on the whole time. And so that was July 5th, 54, and all that's in outer space now, but still the room could have been a radio museum history, American radio history museum.
Absolutely.
But again, in Memphis, we are so short-sighted.
Right.
It would be like coming in here and wiping out half your car stock because there's not enough room in here, or somebody's in power that doesn't understand history.
Right.
Or whatever the deal is. And you not only erode American history, you erode Memphis as being so important in the middle of the American century for the creation of rock and roll and what that meant to rockabilly and blues artists and everybody else that came through and recorded at all these other theaters, studios, and things that were here. But
Amen.
Yeah.
But the end of the story is, and Nye, I apologize, you've already heard this story. But taking wasn't my idea. My idea was preserving.
Right.
But it was going to be trashed. So we sort of had to take it and take care of it, father it.
Right.
So Control Room A, Dewey's room, went to Sun Records. Control Room B, Scott Bomar took most of that out, but it was a huge room. It went into his studio downtown on South Main. Control Room A, which Dewey had interviewed Elvis in, was broken down into pieces, measured by a master carpenter friend of mine so it could be put back together.
Master carpenter.
My master carpenter friend, Hippie Mike, measured the room, and it was a very weird-shaped room because, for acoustics, popular science, all that, it had to be, sound could not be captured in any corner. Sound had to remain, it had to be captured in a certain way or deadened, but to give a live performance. The ceiling at Sun Records is, kind of got the ripples in the top like Charlie Brown's shirt because Sam had read a popular science story about studies on water, aquatic sound studies, and he designed the roof that way, which then carried over to Sam Phillips' studio over the new studio that he built in 59. But the WHBQ had some of that going on, but not so much in the ceiling, just in the shapes of the rooms were weird, like Dungeons and Dragons dice weird or something. But I got all those measurements, tore apart the room as best we could, couldn't take the floor up, took the tiles all off the walls, took the 500-pound double-sheeted glass framed wooden thing in the walls. Somebody had shot the other one out, I think, with gunfire. But we took it to our house, and it's still there in our barn.
Wow.
With John's Legos and everything else.
Nice.
And it's been there for quite a while. If anyone wants to buy it from me, give me a call. I'm kidding. I'd like to. I've tried many times to get it put up just as it was.
Right.
Yeah.
What's the point of doing it unless you can exactly, put it in the same square footage?
Something like the Rock and Soul Museum or something downtown, you think.
Well,
I've got a better idea. I happen to know a guy who owns a record pressing factory over on Chelsea. I'm sorry, it's my
That
building.
would be him.
Yeah, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
wait, you own plastic products?
I do. Yeah. Yeah. Well, see.
Oh, okay. Sean maybe told me that.
Yeah.
Wait, you own the Quonset hut?
I do. That is correct.
Are there two of them?
There are actually three. I own, well, there are four, but there are three that were part of Plastic Products. I own the one on the far right if you're looking at them head on. So mine is the easternmost building and the shortest.
What happened in that building?
They were pressing records there.
Because I've heard that Elvis would go watch the Sun singles being
Pressed there.
Then
Yeah.
he would go to Pop Tunes on Poplar and
Yeah.
hide behind cardboard stand-ups and watch people buy his record.
Yeah,
Dig
that's kind of the deal. So in that, and
Baz
if you,
Luhrmann didn't do that.
if you want some of this, I'm glad to share. I've got probably 15 55-gallon drums of vinyl for pressing records and making the pucks.
The original vinyl.
The original vinyl is there. So there were a few things left.
You don't have a museum setting?
No, not yet. We're literally just getting a lot of it cleaned out.
Yeah, that thing was so far from a museum setting. You
Well, now,
wouldn't even.
so the original owner was named Williams, is that right?
I believe so. He's the
Robert
guy on
Williams?
he's the guy on the plaque that's on the outside
Right,
of the building.
right,
Yeah.
right.
And
So you're saying you would install Control Room A there as part of an overall experience?
yeah, why not? why wouldn't I do that?
Okay.
right.
You heard it, folks.
Yeah,
That's right.
I mean, yeah, that.
Keeping it in Memphis would be
Well,
cool.
and for what I do, I do a lot of replica signs. You know,
Yeah.
I'm into. You know, if it was an old gas station, you know, like the Mobile Oil Horses,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I've done the Stack sign, the Sun sign. If it has something to do with, you know, like anything like
Oh,
that,
okay.
that's kind of my deal.
My wheels are turning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
Huh.
Sean, the stuff that Sean does is amazing.
Yeah. In
you,
fact,
you need to
that
post
Sun
some
Studio
of those.
sign right up there hanging from that beam.
Oh, yeah. I've seen those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, do
Sean
you-
is the guy that does those.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yep.
you sold those at Cooper Young Festival?
I do, yeah.
So
Well,
my
I
friend
have.
Rick O'Brien, Rick had one of those sun signs.
Nice,
in his-
nice.
in his backyard.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's primarily what it is. So
You're not going to charge me anything. are
No,
you?
no,
Okay,
no.
good.
So me and my partner Javier.
That's how
we've,
it usually comes. You know, it's like, well, we'll help you out, but it's going to cost you.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, what we've done is me and my partner Javier, who's also on the podcast, and we forgot to mention that is not here tonight.
He's not here.
He's working.
Neither is Matt.
And neither is Matt.
That's true.
Yeah. So we have just gotten the building clean and gotten power back into the building after it's sat empty for so many years.
So all three buildings are owned by you group of friends?
No. I own the easternmost building, and the guy that is the next building to the west of me, his name is Steve Miller, and he's a real joker. Sorry.
Maybe a midnight toke.
Yeah, he might be. Good guy though. And then
But is he a space cowboy?
Chances are good on Chelsea.
yeah,
Here goes the
he's-
snuff film all over again.
he's heard all the jokes. So, but
Yeah.
and then there is a lady that owns the two most western buildings, and she is in the antique business, and that's where she
I've
stores.
been in
So-
there.
yeah, exactly.
Actually, we went in when you don't remember this, but we went in there to the antique stuff anyway. But years before that, we went in with the original owner's son,
Wow. Yeah.
and my friend Kelly Cox took photographs of the interior.
Love to see those.
In around, I would say 2004, 5, or something like that.
Wow. Yeah.
That'd be
5.
cool.
You would have been really. Well,
That'd
you
be
probably
cool.
weren't on that trip.
So
Probably,
yeah,
yeah.
weird story though. I bought it from a friend of mine, the building, and the guy that was in it was a friend of mine who is a preacher and pastored a church, and he bought the building so he could do his side hustle was painting cars. So he painted a car that I had in that building, and it sat empty for years and years. And his name is Larry Stroop, and I called Larry out of the blue and said, "Hey, Larry, do you still have that building?" And we struck a deal, and then here we are. A couple of years later.
Well, what historically in the building? Did you have the building that pressed the records, or what?
I believe all of them had something to do with it.
Okay.
Because a lot of the switch gear is in my building, and there are still some controls on the wall for heating. And I guess it was the melting of the vinyl and
Wow.
that kind of thing. So.
For singles,
Yeah.
Sun never produced a LP.
Yeah, it was all 45s. So I've got a handful of 45s, and I've got a negative. I've got a pressing plate, and I've got a press that I'm not 100% certain what it did there, but it is a legit
Jesus
press.
Christ, you've got all this that was left there.
A lot of it, yeah. And they just walked away from
How
it.
could it be left there?
Yeah, right.
I get it.
There were also like 9 million thermoses in there.
yeah.
No, I mean, well, that's thirsty bunch. Well, whenever I tell somebody I've got control room A, they go, "Oh, what was in it?" It's like, well, nothing was in it. It's just the room itself, which makes the square footage more important. But okay, so I gotta do a quick plug for the Savad Berry's rock and roll record.
Oh,
so anyway,
let's talk about Savad. Okay.
So I worked at Memphis Record Pressing for about a year and a half or so, 2017, 18, and developed a fast friendship with this guy named Jesse Mansfield, who masters and mixes records, and that sort of all led to the formation of Black and Wyatt Records through Dennis Black and Robert Jethro Wyatt, who run this local company that puts out local rock and roll records.
Sure.
And so part of our goal is to reissue old 45s and things that are lost. And there was this group of kids that were at East High School in 1956, the day after the $1 Million Quartet session, December 8th, the day after, they go into Sun and record a song called Steady Girl, original tune, and they're just 16, 15 years old.
Yeah.
And the acetate was handed to them and then lost for 45 years, whatever, and then our friend at the label, Frank Bruno, bought it at one of these shady places that he always goes to, under the table places that sells lost acetates. And so we put out the Heathens record off that acetate. They did 2 takes, so it was perfect for a single. And the lady that played on it, who was the girlfriend of the lead singer, she passed away the day she got to hear it before she died. Like, she died the next day because she was in the hospital at that point already. These are older people.
It's crazy. Your timing was pretty damn great.
Well, and they were called the Heathens. Colin Heath was the name of the kid that went in and wrote the song. But and that's on Black and White. But just recently, a couple of days ago, we were at this Joe Bob Drive-In Jamboree. And if I get involved in one more cool thing, I think my head's going to explode. So my girlfriend Lisa and I were at the Jamboree at the Hilton in the dealer's room, and we got the damn Savad record the day before. And Savad Berry's Rock and Roll came out in '63, the year I was born.
Yeah.
And same year the Mysterian came out, I think, with Big Daddy.
Yeah. Dig that.
And so we reissued this old record with 3 photographs that have never been seen before of Savad, including Watson Davis putting his makeup on the back cover in color. It's got an insert in it with a poster. It's got some essays from people who met Savad, a review of the record originally from Ron Hall.
So
Ron Hall wrote a garage rock history of Memphis garage rock that Shangri-La Records put out years and years ago.
Is that our Ron Hall?
That's our Ron.
Okay.
You know Ron?
Yeah.
Hope he's not too mad. I don't think I asked him permission to reprint the article.
No.
We'll find out. Don't let him.
So
don't be mad.
I have to ask, Sean and Mike, do you guys know who Savad was?
No.
Okay.
I figured he'd know. I have no idea.
Okay. Well, Mike, you got to take us there, buddy.
Yeah, I was going to go there. I was going to be like, all right, back it up for people who don't know.
Let me just say that Savad is Davis spelled backwards, and I'll let Mike take over from there.
All right.
Watson Davis was the head of advertising at Malco Theaters when Malco was housed in the Orpheum, when it was just a Malco Theater downtown. And in the late 50s, they had ballyhoo. You guys know what ballyhoo is?
No.
Ballyhoo is when, before radio covered movie promotions, and before there was people even had television, really, in the late 50s, you had ballyhoo. So you would dress up. If you had a horror movie coming to town at Malco, the ad exec, Watson, would dress all the people up that worked at Malco in monster uniforms and makeup and just whatever they could come up with. And when you go to the bathroom at the Orpheum and you go down the stairs, that's where Watson's office was. So Elton Holland was his assistant. Elton would be the hunchback. Watson would be a vampire, Dracula. And they had a Frankenstein. If you really want to look good, like a Frankenstein monster, and you need like a last minute tip, just take a sports coat and turn it around and put your arms in it. And so that's what they would do. And they would parade up and down Main Street to promote like Hammer Films, Bride of Dracula, Christopher Lee movies at the time because you couldn't advertise them on the radio, and that was Ballyhoo.
Huh.
So then, in much the same way, and this is a great Memphis thing, it makes Memphis so special, like many of the other major cities in America, just like they came to Dewey Phillips at WHBQ and said, hey, you want to get on the radio with that crazy crap you're doing and talking about? They, Channel 13 came to Watson at Malco and said, hey, do you want to have a horror host show where you play a bunch of movies? Because in 1947, the government had deregulated the theater system, and then they also dumped all these horror movies onto television that had been shown only in theaters. So suddenly, and this is just like the hot rod craze that really developed after World War II, where you had a bunch of like hopped up airplane pilots that didn't know what to do with their time other than form the Hells Angels or cut up cars.
Yeah.
You had a bunch of kids who were sped up on sugar who were watching monster movies, kind of the same equivalent, and they really had nothing to do and except watch, Curse of the Werewolf or whatever. And Savad was the Memphis affiliate who would come on and say, "Oh, good evening."
Yes.
And maybe on a good night, because it switched to evenings at some point, I could watch it 100 miles away. But Savad was on Channel 13, as was wrestling and all these other cool local things, regional things, from 62 to 72. And then in 2010, John Bifus, a local film writer for Commercial Appeal, still there writing, we did a Savads of March event where a lot of these old guys showed up, and it was a 4-day event at Brooks Museum. And that book, we put out a book, and then in 2020 we were going to do Savads of March 2020. 10 years later, anyone still alive? But COVID wiped that possibility away. Yeah. But 2 years later, we've got the 45 pressed on blood red vinyl, by the way.
Dig that.
And this weekend, we sold a buttload of them at the Joe Bob thing. I was really grateful that happened. And Joe Bob rented out the drive-in, all 4 screens, for 2 nights, 3 nights,
really,
something like that. I didn't go to that, but we were really busy.
I didn't hear anything about this other than when you were posting on your Facebook that you were there. Like, so what is this? What is that?
What was the Joe Bob thing?
Yeah, the Joe Bob thing. What?
He basically takes a bunch of...
This is a local guy?
No, he's from Texas, I think, but he dresses up like a cowboy, and he's on Shudder Network, which we don't even have a TV, so... right. Too modern. So he's on Shudder Network. He does a horror show. He shows movies. Maybe it's a little bit like Mystery Science Theater.
Okay.
Again, it's kind of like I'm there doing my thing. All these other dealers are there doing their things. A lot of people obviously are there because they watch him on Shudder, but I know him to be more of a cable thing from the 80s where he would show cult movies. Do you know?
Yeah, I don't. No, I'm sorry.
But Sybil Danning was there from The Howling 3, and she's Scream Queen and she's looks okay for a 75-year-old woman, I gotta say.
Wow.
And PJ Souls from Rock and Roll High School. PJ Souls was in Carrie, Rock and Roll High School, Stripes with Bill Murray.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, she was.
She was in everything at the end of the 70s. And she and I talked for like an hour. Fred Williamson, Blaxploitation Act, Super Bowl star, was there.
Yeah. So who else was in Stripes? The other female actress?
Don't know.
Sean Young.
Really?
Yeah, there you go.
She's a lot hotter.
Much hotter. Yeah.
So it was just a fun 2 days, and sold a lot of records and sold my Blu-rays and just talked.
We have a lot of cool subcultures in Memphis.
Yeah.
That's one thing. That's one thing I gotta say. Like, we came together. Do you remember how we met?
J-Wags.
No.
Hey.
Yeah. I know.
John, you don't know what that means.
We'll
probably
just let
good
him
I
sit
don't.
there. Yeah, probably good. He does.
I'll explain on the way home.
No.
Don't Google it.
I don't know how I got hooked up with you, but the deal was you needed an old car for a music video. You remember it?
No, man.
So I had my green '63 Oldsmobile.
It's coming back.
Dynamic '88.
It's coming back to me.
And it was Jesse and Noah Bellamy.
Oh.
It was that.
So he was the connection for that terrible.
He was. He filmed it. So if you want to call it terrible, it's his deal. No.
So
Yeah.
Mike, I do
You're good.
have a question for you, Mike. We had talked about the Chiska, and
Yeah.
I had mentioned to Mike Abbott about the movie Mystery Train,
Yeah.
and I know part of it was filmed in the Chiska.
No. Well, no.
It was not.
No, the Arcade Hotel.
Okay, so
Across from the arcade restaurant.
they said it was the Chiska, but it was not.
I don't think it was any. No, the Chiska would have been deserted, boarded up. Whatever.
Okay. Well, they mentioned it in
Well,
the
they
movie.
tore
so-
the arcade hotel down the second they finished filming there
Wow.
with Screaming
Okay.
Jay Hawkins.
Yeah, yeah.
And the bellhop scene and all that. That was a
Well,
little hotel.
Guys, and Mike, I've mentioned this. Whoops, hold on.
If they did something at the Chiska, maybe you're right. I don't know, but arcade restaurant, arcade hotel, and then the train station with
Yeah,
Rufus
yeah.
Thomas. That scene.
Well, and I've told Mike a time or two, you really need to see it. It's
Yeah.
a really unique film, and it's
What movie is it again?
Mystery Train.
Mystery
He's mentioned it like 15 times.
I know, and you've
We
never
gotta
seen
watch
it.
it.
You've
We
got to
gotta
see
watch
it.
it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a liquor store over on Vance that a friend of mine used to work in, and they filmed a robbery for the movie in there. And
Oh,
it
really?
Had
Yeah.
WW Liquors, and
Yeah.
there's fake blood on the ceiling to this day. And he said every now and then when I would work, these weird tourists would come in and say, "Hey, is this the place that Mystery Train?" And they would, of course, buy some Thunderbird and some crap just so they could have their photo taken.
But it
in the
was
thing.
it was robbed in the movie.
It was, yeah, it was.
So Junior Parker, recorded Mystery Train with Sam Phillips at Sun, and then, or maybe it was the Memphis Recording Service at that point. But then the last Elvis Sun single was Mystery Train.
Yes.
So yeah, Jarmusch
And
was.
who?
appreciative of
What?
that.
Joe Strummer was in it.
Yeah.
And what? Rocket's Red Glare and
I'd moved away from Memphis that year.
Yeah.
It was shot, so I wasn't.
so Rocket's
Privy.
Red Glare was supposedly the guy who sold Sid Vicious his last batch of heroin.
Really?
Don't know if it's true, but it's one of them urban legends.
The
That's
guy's
the word.
name is Rocket's Red Glare.
Yes. Well, I'm sure it's not his birth name. Sean.
Well,
Come on.
I figured that much, but yeah, but I mean, like,
His parents were
it
hippies.
goes
Yeah.
by, right? Yeah.
Or bicentennialists.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever that means.
That's crazy.
Um,
Wow.
But
See, you know so much. So much Memphis history. I mean,
But I-
that's one of the things I love.
but and that's a way to make a living. That's kind of how I've tried to make a living.
Yeah.
But what I try to do is make new art or new movies or whatever it is I'm doing.
Yeah.
I try to do something new so that I'm not just repackaging
Yeah.
something that's old.
Yeah. So what are you doing now? What are you? What's your next thing on the horizon?
Well, it'd be great if I got a new sculpture job. If the phone doesn't ring, then I guess that pretty much chalks that up. But
Yeah.
I did the Johnny Cash sculpture in Cooper Young.
You did that.
Yep.
Whoa.
Really?
And it would be great if anyone's got 100,000 laying around to give me a call. I'd love to
Yeah.
do Junior Parker or
Yeah,
Furry Lewis or
We were there at the unveiling
Unveiling
of
of
that.
it.
Yeah.
Yes, we went to the unveiling
were
of it.
Yeah,
Okay.
we were there.
John
Wow.
rang the bell at the church.
Really? Get out of here.
I tell you.
At
Okay.
the
Yeah.
Galloway Church.
And
yeah.
Mike and I were sitting there, and what was his nephew that sang?
No, it was his grandson.
His grandson?
Unreal. His grandson
yeah.
sang at that. Sounded just like it.
Yeah, blew me away.
Yeah, God, well, I'll have to talk about that too. But a sculpture job would be great. I've been waiting for about 2 years to try to get the money together to do a new movie, which is supercar based, called Rebel Auto. Might change the name of it to Skids. I'm not sure, but Rebel Auto is about a married couple whose marriage is on the skids, and they race their vintage muscle cars to settle their disagreements. And then they eventually decide to rob the small town bank, pay for their divorce, and go in opposite directions.
So it's weird that you say that. I actually know an actual couple that is really like that in real life.
Wow, they're going to sue me.
He's a Ford guy, and she's a Chevy
Yeah,
girl.
yeah. Is
she
that why they can't
drives-
get along?
She drives a Camaro, and he drives a Mustang, and they race each other regularly. And of course, trash talks. There's always brand trash talk.
I'm not even going to say who wins.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess it's
well. His car is actually getting put back together, and he's upped horsepower and bigger motor so that he can really just beat his wife. Though they're fantastic people.
wife,
They're great
wife
people.
beater.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, this movie would be about. Again, this is goes back into the Americana history of our legacy or family business in the 20th century, where you had 3 generations of a family that had a car dealership. But what I wanted to make a statement about a family who had an American Motors car dealership.
Right.
And this goes back to the Pacer maybe or whatever, but the guy that's now in this situation, Ralph, the bank has taken everything, almost everything. His marriage is on the skids. They live in this small microcosm of goose reality, southern town kind of thing. But, he can't hold on to in fact, now it's more like a car repair place. He repairs anything, but nobody comes in, and they don't sell AMC or American cars anymore because American Motors doesn't exist and
Right.
hasn't existed for quite the 80s, whatever.
Yeah.
Except for Jeep, I guess. Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoever puts Jeep out.
Yeah, now it's Chrysler, but
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's a brand new
it's
shiny
called
place across the street, like a Carvana or whatever, that's with the salesman over there and the owner and all that, and he's always bitter about that, and the guy had to locate right across the street from him, right?
Yeah.
And he's got the little town's oldest family-owned dealership. And so I thought American Motors would be the perfect thing for that. And in my obsession with American Motors, I think everybody's grandfather, my dad had a Nash Rambler
Yeah.
at some point or another. And they, correct me if I'm wrong, but they built the AMC Rebel on the frame of the Rambler.
That's very possible. I'm not
I
sure.
think so.
Not a big AMC guy.
But we were just researching, AMC. I was like, well, there's the Javelin. I didn't really know about the Rebel.
Yeah.
What about the Marlin? In the Marlin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
there's a
Marlin,
Yeah.
but the Javelin was AMC's version of the Corvette. It had something crazy
Yeah.
going on with the hood.
The front fenders on it were goofy.
Yeah.
It had those
had those
Yeah.
humps on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's his car. That his dad gave him that car, and his dad gave his wife the Rebel prototype. And there's nothing more extremely evil looking than the AMC 69 prototype that's painted dull black, and there's these photos online that you
Yeah.
can see, and it just looks they had to go and paint it red, white, and blue to promote American Motors, and I thought they sort of cut the balls off of it a little bit by
Right.
painting it like that. They
Yeah.
should have left it flat black,
Right.
or get it in the color you want, I guess.
Yeah.
But the flat black thing looks like if you melted or meat grinded Darth Vader down into a car. That's the AMC Rebel, and then even the logo on it, everything is amazing. And as usual, you never see anything that extols the virtues of American Motors or what they went through and how they got screwed over by Ford with the Pacer engines and all that
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
So I just thought these would be the perfect cars to. I don't want to wreck them,
Right.
but I'd like to have them as a metaphor for the characters in the movie.
dig that.
Yeah,
That sounds super cool.
and have you fabricate some body parts so I don't have to wreck the actual car.
Yeah.
right. I don't know. Maybe cheaper to wreck the car.
Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of a rare car.
Yeah.
I've seen a handful of those.
Yeah.
Well, I think you could buy a Rebel, I'm not sure what, $17,000 somewhere on Facebook, and I have no idea the condition.
Right.
Oh,
But,
right now. Yeah, the Rebels
well-
are worth a pretty good amount of money right now. Poteet has one.
Wow.
That my
Whoa, who has one?
George Poteet, the red, white, and blue one.
You told me about that.
Yeah, my buddy Zach Straits restored it for him.
And where's this at?
It's down in Holly Springs.
Okay.
Yep.
Not far.
Yep.
Well, wait,
So,
restore. What is red, white, and blue?
it's restored red, white, and blue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it was one of those.
What
but
year is it?
I don't know. I don't
Probably
remember what years they were. 69 or
69.
77. They became more.
69 or 70. It looks kind of like a Chevy 2, little
Yeah.
square.
Yeah, it's the car.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It's what you. It's
Yeah.
what you think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to have the backstory where Carol, the woman who has the Rebel, I don't want to give too much away, but the reason that she even came into the Rebel Auto car lot when she was like a teenager with her father and met Ralph, the man who would be her husband, is that she had this encounter with this stranger and that did not turn out very well. And when the police didn't believe her and she saw the guy on the street, she ran over him.
Nice.
And so she was too young to be convicted of murder or vehicular homicide or whatever, but she knew always that she killed the guy, that did her wrong. And so her father just brings her into Rebel Auto to buy her another car because she totaled the other one running over the guy. So that's kind of
Nice.
and that's the girl that Ralph falls in love with.
Right.
And so good, man. Love it, love it.
He has
I'm
such
there.
an active imagination. It's amazing to me.
for radio, for podcasts.
Oh, it's
yeah.
hilarious. Oh, that's really cool though, because I don't have that imagination. I mean, it was like we were talking about with the Hot Wheels and stuff, like the coffin cars and stuff like that. They didn't appeal to me because it didn't look like a car. It was just like, I had an imagination, but it wasn't that kind of imagination. I mean, I never got into comic books. I never, so there are a lot of things like that for me that those are people that I'm attracted to because they're so different than me, So
Sean grew up of owning a Dodge Volare one day.
Yeah.
Hey, did have my sister actually? Her first car was a
God.
Dodge Volare.
Look,
Nice.
I think 90% of my moral compass came from comic books.
Which explains a lot.
Yeah, but see, it was outside reality for me. So, for me, there were those things that stepped you outside of a reality. Like, I just didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't get lost in alternate universes.
I
and
wanted
stuff.
to be outside of reality
Yeah.
because I was growing up on a gravel road in Mississippi and going to county high school. And
Okay, Mike, where are you from? You're describing my childhood.
well, I'm from.
Tupelo.
You know where Baldwin, New Albany, Booneville.
Yeah. Okay.
Where rockabilly was sort of created.
Yeah.
Nobody talked about it, but kind of there. And Tupelo and
Gotcha.
Verona. My dad worked in a factory in Verona, Mississippi.
Okay, I grew up in Coldwater.
Yeah.
So,
and
yeah.
and that's where Jim Dickinson had Zebra Ranch.
Yes,
Yeah.
Arcabutla,
Okay.
which it's a suburb of Coldwater, if that's a such thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we went to Zebra Ranch to shoot a video for Jim Dickinson, the only one he ever made.
Okay,
Back
gotcha.
in
Yeah.
2003 or 4 or some whatever. Like
Sure.
that. Yeah. That's the only time I think I've been there. I could be wrong.
Yeah, it's if you blink, you'll miss it. I mean, it's tiny.
It's got the copper kettle.
It's got the copper kettle. Yeah.
But what's cool, I mean, growing up in that part of the country was really alive, though, because of all the baby boomer kids that
Yeah.
were growing up there at the time. But then when they grew up, it became desolate.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
desolate now.
So I saw a feed, and this is kind of interesting. Do you know who James Earl Jones is?
Yeah.
The voice of Darth Vader.
Sure. That's right.
He's from Arcabutla, Mississippi.
Yeah.
That is his hometown.
Yeah.
Which is, how strange is that?
Yeah.
You know?
And they don't celebrate that at all.
Yeah, well, there's a sign.
Is there?
Yeah, there is a sign.
There's a sign.
There's a sign.
it.
It's
Well,
a small one.
You know, Morgan Friedman, he lives in Charleston, Mississippi to
Yeah.
this day.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And there's a lot of people
Yeah.
like that that are kind of floating around.
Yeah.
You know.
He bought me a hamburger at Ground Zero. And
No.
Yeah.
So I want to get back to this Quonset hut.
Please. Okay.
Plastic products.
Yes.
So do you know anybody at Memphis Record Pressing?
Yeah, I've made a couple of signs for those guys.
Okay.
Matter of fact,
You know Brandon.
I do know Brandon.
Okay.
So the first sign that I made in my building is a Memphis record pressing sign.
Okay.
It's drying. It's on my floor now. The very first thing I did was something for him.
Heck yeah, that's
Well,
awesome.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just thought
Very
you,
awesome.
you guys should partner maybe in some way where he sends you business and you send him business or
We
whatever.
kind of do.
You
Yeah,
do?
we're
Okay.
back and forth a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm
Because-
trying
because
to.
nobody makes singles in Memphis.
Well, I mean, see, I can't. I've got maybe a press, but I mean that's really it. I have no infrastructure to support any of that.
Czechoslovakia does.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe.
Czech Republic makes singles for us through
Yeah.
MRP.
So there's Kilowatt Lake is actually behind the building.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you right now the water's down kind of low. If you go down the bank from my building into Kilowatt Lake, they're the center chunks of vinyl that they stamped out
Everywhere.
of Ford. They're all over the place.
What?
The
Yeah.
whole beach
Yeah.
is center chunks of vinyl.
Yeah. And it's
Really?
it's your standard small spindle, and they punched it out to the
From
normal.
the 50s?
Yeah,
Have you taken pictures?
I've got a few of them. I've gone down in there and
That's
fished
great.
it.
Did you tell Brandon about that?
Yeah. Well, and I tried to deal Brandon the vinyl that I have.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, when I deliver the sign, I'm going to take some of the thermoses that we had and fill them up full of vinyl and give them to him as a gift. I thought
Jesus Christ.
he'd get a kick out of it.
I
so.
want one of those chunks.
Absolutely. I'll hook you up. Yeah, I'll probably be there Saturday. I'll leave you my number if you want to swing by. I'm your guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're saying these are the chunks of vinyl that Williams, if I'm getting the name right,
Yeah.
sorry, used to make Sun Records or anything else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Huh.
And I think a lot of it, some of it was just raw vinyl.
Yeah.
Some of it, I think, were seconds that they destroyed to reuse. Because if you look real close, you'll see little bits of label still on the record.
Even in the lake?
No, the ones that are in
okay,
I have
okay.
drums of this.
Okay, right.
I'm telling you, I could go in the record business right now, Mike. I am setting.
Are you
some
on the
vinyl.
record?
I'm on the record. Yeah,
All right, I got to come over and check.
absolutely.
your-
Anytime.
Okay.
That is
See you in
so
a couple
cool.
hours.
Yes,
Okay.
we'll do it.
Man, I gotta get a record or two for my wall.
Yeah, there's a handful. Oddly enough, and you'll get a kick out of this. The first 45 on the top of the box of the records that I had in that I found was Dusty Springfield, and it was the single from Dusty in Memphis, Preacher Man.
They pressed the records there?
They pressed
the
that
single?
That single was pressed there.
Huh.
And there's I'm telling you,
Because she's up on Jackson recording it at American Sound.
exactly.
Yeah.
But there were so many labels that actually were pressed there. It was Sun, Stax, Capital.
Sure.
Just a ton of labels
Well,
that were pressed there.
A little bit of Memphis trivia. There have been more record labels, indie Memphis record labels in Memphis, 200. And
Yeah.
according to Jim Cole, if you get a chance, go to if you're at the Crosstown building, see if you can go to the Memphis Listening Lab,
Okay.
which is up on the second floor. And Jim Cole is there, and it's basically a listing room for vinyl.
Yeah.
But Jim used to work at Sun as well, and
Okay.
I believe Jim told me a long time ago there have been 230 record labels in Memphis.
Yeah.
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 And more, of course, since we had that conversation.
So Meteor Records.
Meteor, yeah.
Meteor was like 3 doors down from where my building is.
Right.
And that was Elmore James' label. So
Wow.
Dust My Broom.
Wow.
Right down the street.
Isn't it weird that American Sound couldn't survive, but the Quonset Hut survived?
Yeah,
Right, yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, American Sound is what, a Dollar General now? American Studios.
Well, it's gone.
Yeah, it's right. It's a different
But
building.
wouldn't it have been cool if they'd have built it
Right. Right.
Like in Boston, you can't tear down anything. You have to repurpose the building
Yeah.
as to
Yeah.
what you
Yeah.
want it
Yeah,
to be.
that's one thing that you touched on earlier that I wanted to note as well is you were talking about how Memphis they don't save anything, and
It takes
and
a
you're very
concentrated
right.
activist effort.
Right.
to-
It always takes the last second of everybody has to go absolutely bonkers in order for something to be saved.
Well, like with the
here.
Mid-South Coliseum. So we formed the Coliseum Coalition
Right.
in 2014, 15. And John was going to campus school over at U of M, and I ran into Marvin Stockwell, whose kids were going there at the time. And that was what brought us together, was being at your school. And from that grew the coalition, which I get cynical sometimes about what's going on over there. But if the rising tide lifts all ships, and that youth sportsplex, which is blocking out the sunlight over
Yeah.
there right now,
Yeah.
if it can bring some kind of new ownership to the arena, then that's great. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes.
Some-
But we need
I
if you're listening and you want to learn more about the Coliseum Coalition, you could go to the Facebook page, the Coliseum Coalition, and or look up Roy Barnes, who is the current president of the coalition, or Marvin Stockwell.
Is
Yeah.
it Mid-South Coliseum Coalition?
Just Coliseum Coalition.
Coliseum Coalition.
Yeah, and you
Okay.
can even, if you have a purpose, or you're curious, or maybe you want to see the building again, you can ask Marvin about signing up for a tour of the building.
Oh, seriously?
Oh, we
They-
need to do that.
Dude,
They do.
yes.
Yeah.
The city has been very nice in allowing us to have Marvin have keys to the building, and but they're planned out. You have to sign a waiver.
Yeah.
It's very official.
Sure.
And they have drone groups going there, photography groups lately.
Wow.
That have
Yeah.
gone in there, and it's pretty amazing. And it looks just like they locked the doors.
Yeah.
Right. Wow.
You know?
So it's not really destroyed in there.
Well,
Too badly.
vandalism has
Yeah.
destroyed it,
Something,
and we lobbied to Jamita Swearingen, who did a really great job, and we would call and say, hey, there's a pane of glass broken over here, and finally she had the city board up all access to the building, and now there's murals painted on the north side of the building. I'm not so much sure what's going on the south side of the building, but anything great could happen there. Somebody has some vision,
Right.
and comes in and reinvents the place.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where.
So we run SCCA autocross around there.
Oh my God! Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Like
it's so much fun. That's where we run.
Yeah.
Right around that whole parking lot around the building. It's,
Well, the
it's so
city
great.
kind of uses it for storage. So
Yeah.
if the city trusts their own stuff in there, then surely the building's okay.
Yeah, right.
That's right.
Underneath it, it's so cool though. There's just so much history in Memphis that has been destroyed or that they have to fight for. Like the 18th century club or whatever that was
19th century.
19th century
Yeah.
club. That building
It's there.
alone that they were talking about, tearing that down, and
Yeah.
that is a building
Right.
that should never be torn down.
And the
There's
building
no
right
way.
next to it is a Taco Bell, but it
Right.
was the Taliesin Ballroom where the Sex Pistols played.
Yes,
Right?
yes, it
Yeah.
was.
The Sex
Yeah.
Pistols Taco Bell is right next
Yeah.
to the whatever.
You
whatever
think
the building.
they would have learned from that, but they don't.
Right,
Like,
right.
oh,
No, they don't.
maybe we shouldn't do that again.
Well, I guess
do.
things like that in the 20th century were considered so disposable.
yeah.
Right.
There
the
you
pop
go.
culture was so disposable that nobody thought to reflect on it.
Yeah, but I mean, if that building looked like the 19th century building
Well,
looks, which
right.
I imagine it
I've
probably was an
I've
old home
never
like
seen
that.
an exterior image of the Taliesin Ballroom.
Really.
But it's called the Taliesin Ballroom.
Yeah, you would think.
right.
Yeah.
It had to
I mean, based on what's sitting next to it, I'm sure it was an old building like that.
I want
one,
to think
you
it
know?
has some kind of Russian architecture to it.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Well, it couldn't have been that big because
No,
the
it's
footprint of
squeezed
the
in.
yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to do a mural of Johnny Rotten and Sid on the building next to the drive-thru at the Taco Bell, where you pull in, and on the right, you're right there next to the dermatology building,
Nice.
and it's got stucco brick, and I'm like, well, that would be perfect for Johnny's acne.
Yes.
Just to like do a mural of Johnny Rotten, and you could feel his face while you're about to get your,
Chalupa.
never mind the burritos.
That's hilarious.
I don't think they'd probably like that.
That is way too cool.
Yeah.
Well, shoot. Is there anything else you want to plug or tell anybody about? Obviously, we'll plug Cars and Stars here again. So.
I just Teenage Tupelo Blu-ray at Christmas. Damsel's Daughter of Helvis Blu-ray coming out. I've got a Teenage Tupelo coffee table book coming out on Fantagraphics. We want to have a great crowd at Cars Under the Stars.
How do people find your stuff if they want to buy something?
They don't.
No.
No.
They just have to
It's
come
a
find
secret.
you.
Yeah, it's all under the table. I think I'm waiting till I die, and then John can figure it out.
Dig it.
You know,
Like but
he's going
I
to be
mean,
responsible for everything.
Yeah, but like the movies that you're putting out and all that kind of stuff is just it's
Fantagraphics Books
Yeah.
is the largest distributor of underground comics in the world, but they're putting out a book on my movie.
all right.
So
yeah.
comic book people will go, well, what's this movie all about? But the movie came out on Something Weird, which was also in Seattle, like Fantagraphics. At a certain point, you just want there to be some sort of like osmosis of pop culture people who know about exploitation movies, about punk rock, about music, cars, all this stuff.
Yeah.
But I wish I could give you an easy answer.
Yeah.
There's a company called Saturn's Core, and Saturn's Core is a video distributor, and they're going to put out Damsel's Daughter of Helvis, and there's some talk that they will put out a box set of Sore Losers, Shine On Sweet Starlet, Super Starlet AD, all the movies I did in the 90s. But you can go to GorillaMonsterFilms.com, which is in bad need of an update, which is GUERRILLA Monster, Gaila Monster. Or you can email me at jmm.memphis@gmail.com.
Cool.
So I guess that's the best way to do it.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So hopefully some
Come out to
folks will-
Time Warp Drive-In.
Yes.
I'm usually there selling
Yeah.
merchandise.
I'll put this up here. So yeah, so this is July 30th. Cars Under the Stars. We asked for cruising cars to come like 5:30, and we'll just hang out. And we got live music playing, Uptown Punk, and the name of your band again?
The
was-
Markdowns.
The Markdowns. And then Corvette Summer will start when the sun is
8 o'clock.
Yep, when it gets down far enough,
Yeah.
8 o'clock, and then American Graffiti after that.
And
So
about 10 o'clock on it.
Yeah, so he was talking to me earlier about it, about playing American Graffiti first, instead of Corvette Summer. I said no. I said play Corvette Summer first because everyone,
Yeah.
if they're a hot rod person, has seen American Graffiti.
Right.
But I've never seen Corvette Summer. I don't know.
I have.
Yeah. I mean, probably a lot have, but that's not.
No, it's not common.
Yeah, it's not a common one to see.
Yeah, it's not common.
And I just got real quick. I got to say, Mark Hamill is in Corvette Summer with Annie Potts.
Yeah.
And that was the thing that came out right after Star Wars. And Harrison Ford, of course, is in American Graffiti.
Yeah.
And George Lucas's life is the director
Yeah.
of Star Wars, of course, is so much mirrored in American Graffiti, even more so because he almost wiped James Dean style. He almost got killed in a hot rod crash in the late 50s because he was a car enthusiast and did all this crazy stuff in California. And he put all that into American Graffiti, I think, through Harrison Ford's character.
Wow.
When Ford dies, or does he die?
No, he doesn't.
He flips at the end
Yeah.
in the '55 Chevy.
Yeah.
And then Star Wars is nothing but hot rods in outer space.
Right.
It's American Graffiti in outer space, really.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting to me that Hamill and Ford are a part of the car culture via Hollywood before they do Star Wars.
Yeah.
Amen.
That's freaking awesome. And so if you have a Corvette, $10. If you have a classic car, $15. And I'll have to have somebody at the gate telling you if you have a classic car. But if you don't know if you own a classic car or not, you don't own a classic car. So.
I recommend you get
Yeah.
Joel Booker to do that.
Yeah.
He did it for the Rodders reunion.
Did he?
He's your guy.
There we go.
I'm
All
telling
right.
you.
Joel, if you're out there, man, I need your help.
Yeah.
I think this might be a good time to
yeah.
do a live video podcast of him telling people they don't have a classic
Like,
car.
It
Yes.
is not a classic
Joel
car.
will hurt your
Yeah.
feelings.
Yes.
And he'll be hurting your pocketbook that night too.
He will,
That's
but
hilarious.
yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, but for regular cars, $25 for a carload, pack in 8 million people in
Right.
your
All
trunk
your
if you want,
cousins in
whatever.
the trunk
That's
of your
right.
car.
Yeah.
However you want to get them in there, it's $25. But yeah, Mike does Time Warp Drive-In. You can look that up on Facebook, right?
Yeah.
It has a Time Warp Drive-In. By the way, I don't think we've talked about it enough, but it's really really cool. He shows. Well, not necessarily B movies. I mean, some of them were A
They're
movies.
worse.
But you have like a whole Mad Max marathon or something coming up.
Oh yeah,
don't you?
yeah. No, it's
Yeah.
Matt Martin from Black Lodge Video curates and we put the show on, and it's been going on for 9 years, and it could be anything really.
Yeah.
Obviously, with an appeal towards nostalgia or
Right.
80s, 70s, 80s,
Right.
90s. But next year will be 10-year anniversary, and I'm hoping that Memphis Made will release a Time Warp beer
Sweet.
for the 10th anniversary. We'll see.
yeah.
That you're the first to hear about it,
Oh,
right here on the
that's
show.
awesome.
Right
You
here.
get this.
Yeah, we'll go talk to it for you. But no, that's awesome. So when is Time Warp Drive-In? It's the last Thursday or last?
It
Friday?
varies.
Yeah.
We try to do it at the end of every month,
Yeah.
but it's year round, 12 months. Sometimes it's snow,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but we do.
I'll
it
take snow over rain. By the way, just yeah.
Well, we'll see what that'll be. Cars Under the Stars 2, the winter warp or whatever.
Exactly.
But no, it's great to be out there. It's great to participate in a drive-in that has not just 2 screens but 4 screens.
Yeah.
Right.
How many drive-ins in America are there, and how many have 4 screens?
Yeah,
It's
that's right.
crazy. And,
Amen.
And Malco Theater is always working with us. Car shows, Time Warp, just all kinds of stuff. I may be doing an afternoon matinee horror show at Studio on the Square called Afternoon of Horrors. That's in the works. I don't know what else to say about that, but
Yeah.
John and I went to see the new Doctor Strange movie, and there's so many. You talk about not seeing Corvette Summer. there's so many allusions and references to Sam Raimi's Evil Dead film in Doctor Strange, and Sam Raimi, has got a whole world catalog of films. So
Yeah.
John had never seen Evil Dead, so I was
What?
thinking, 2,
Oh.
Evil Dead 2.
Oh, that's the one. That's
So I'm
the
like,
one.
if we're going to package this thing, have it point to movies that are super popular right now, but maybe where the references and influencers are coming from,
Yeah.
especially through horror,
Right.
in new movies. So
That's really cool.
we'll see when it starts, August, September.
Oh, that's great. My buddy Mike Spinola, he watches to see what's coming out on Time Warp. Drive-In. He's
well, that's
always,
great.
Yeah,
That's great.
He loves
We-
all that kind of stuff. So.
we need
Yep.
we need people out there keeping it alive, because during COVID, the drive-in literally kept the movie business
Yeah,
alive.
that's
Yeah.
true. That's
So
true.
it was.
So.
And they did a comedy show there. I went and seen a comedy show. At the drive-in.
Cool.
I
Hey,
can't remember.
you know, you gotta
He's
repurpose
the guy
it,
that
right?
takes his shirt off.
Oh yeah,
chubby
yeah,
guy.
yeah. I know who you're talking about. I
Yeah,
don't remember his
I don't
name.
know.
That's funny. That's
Is it?
awesome.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
I missed that one.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Was that
Well,
sound like a comedy night at Barristers or something?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was kind of like that.
yeah. Well, so we don't have Javi to take us out here. So
Yeah.
you did it last time, Sean. So I guess it's up to you. But
I think you should do the what was the horror voice here?
The horror
Well,
voice.
it's a good evening.
Yeah. So
Savad says good evening, and buy Black and White Records, Savad Berry's Rock and Roll.
okay. So can we do that, but with Hot Rod Blues?
Sure.
Do it. Wing it.
there you go.
Wing it. You got it.
A good evening, and thank you for listening to Hot Rod Blues. I really don't have an Arkansas accent, but I'm doing the best I can, and we'll see you again next time, friends and villains and enemies and all that stuff. So come on back next week.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
If anybody's still alive, they'll be here in the car shop at Steel Rose. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Come out to Cars Under the Stars, July 30th, or you'll be sorry.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike McCarthy. Appreciate
We
it.
appreciate you guys.